What's going on, everyone? Red Politics, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Before I get into today's video, if you guys could consider leaving a like, that would mean a lot. And if you are not yet subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button so you can help me reach my goal of 300 subscribers by the end of this month. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you guys do know when a new video is uploaded to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about possible 2024 candidates for vice president, for presidential candidate Donald Trump. I'm going to be giving my general thoughts on each candidate. I'm not going to have this video be super long because I know we do have quite a few candidates to go through. I'm going to kind of talk about their viability and if they would really add anything to the ticket. So we're going to start off with the current governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. I know he's rather popular in Georgia. He did reform his election system, and he kept his state open, or if he did, I think he shut his state down, but opened it pretty soon thereafter, something along those lines. I know he's rather popular in Georgia, but him and Trump have had this kind of clash over the past few years. I don't think Trump will pick him, and he doesn't really add much to the ticket other than Georgia. But I think in 24, I think Georgia's going to go to Trump anyways, so I don't really see Brian Kemp being that pick. I mean, he's not the worst pick in the world, but there's definitely better candidates, but we're going to put him in D tier. So Elise Stefanik. Admittedly, I don't know a lot about her. I just know she replaced Liz Cheney's position of leadership in the House. And I know that Trump likes her. And all I know is she's from New York. I don't know much about her, so I can't really give an accurate kind of placing on a tier list because I don't really know much about her. And I just know that, Trump likes her and that she's a congresswoman from New York. Other than that, I don't know a lot about her, so I'm just going to put her in the D tier, mainly because, like I said, I don't know about her. Next, we have Glenn Youngkin, who is actually, from my understanding, pretty popular in the state of Virginia. And he's a lot better than what, Terry McAuliffe could have ever been. And, I think he is in a blue-ish state. And I think Virginia's been trying to do the right. He wouldn't be a bad choice, to be honest. I think he'd be one of the better choices. Glenn Youngkin, he's moderate, but he's holds traditional conservative values. He has his charisma is up there, and I think overall he would probably bring quite a bit to the ticket. I know him and Trump are pretty mutual in terms of I know that they from my understanding are on good terms. I don't think they have problems with each other. So I think Glenn Youngkin would be a pretty good person for vice president. And I think, someday he might run for president. I don't see that happening right now. I think if anything, he's probably going to run for United States Senate, which is also fine. He's a great, like I said, he's a good governor. He's one of the better governors in the United States, and I think he would be a pretty good choice. Next, we have J.D. Vance, who is an incoming senator for the state of Ohio. Actually, I think he's already has a Senate seat, but his charisma is on point. I think he'll be very strong for Ohio, but I think he needs to have more experience in politics, and I think he kind of needs we don't truly know where he stands yet because he's a brand new senator. I think he has a lot of potential, and I think that it's very possible that if Trump does pick him, I don't think Trump will, but I don't think he would be a terrible candidate, but he doesn't really add too much to the ticket other than the state of Ohio, but Ohio is pretty much guaranteed to always go Republican now. It's not so much a swing state as it used to be. So in that case, I'm going to put J.D. Vance in the C tier. He's not the worst candidate. I just don't see him bringing much to the ticket. Next, we have Jim Jordan, who is a representative, also from the state of Ohio. One of my more favorite candidates, or more favorite House representatives. I don't know a ton of House representatives, but I do like Jim Jordan. He has very strong charisma. He's very strong. He cares about the American people. And he would be a viable candidate. I don't know that he'd add much to the ticket, like I said, except for Ohio and maybe that kind of entire region up there, like maybe, Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe. But other than that, I don't know that he'd add much to the ticket. But I think he'd be a pretty strong candidate, kind of like J.D. Vance. So I'm gonna put him in the B tier over J.D. Vance because he does have experience in politics. We know his general stances, and we know that he's pretty traditionally conservative and strong in those aspects. Next, we have Joe Lombardo. Joe Lombardo flipped the governorship in the state of Nevada. Now, he doesn't really add anything to the ticket except Nevada. And I don't think Trump would pick him. I don't know that I don't really know where he stands on a lot of issues. We gotta kind of wait and see what he can get done in the state of Nevada. I know it might be a little bit more difficult since he doesn't exactly have a friendly state legislator, and so we'll see what he does as governor. I think there's potential. I think someday he might run for Senate or another Congress position, but I don't even really see him running for president. But it's possible. But we're gonna put him in the probably. He'd be a fine candidate, but I don't think we know enough about him to really give him an accurate ranking. So I think we're just gonna leave him in the D tier. Next, we have Joni Ernst, who she's been over the years pretty conservative on a lot of things. This is another candidate I think Trump likes. I don't know a lot about her, but I know she's been pretty conservative. I know she's been trending to the left a little bit. I don't really know what on, but from my understanding, that's the case. But I'm probably gonna put her in C tier. I know Trump likes her. I don't know that she'd really add much to the ticket either. And so next we have Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley, very charismatic, very strong for the American people, and I think overall he would be a terrific senator. Or he'd be a terrific vice president. He adds a pretty, he doesn't add a ton to the ticket, but he's very strong. He's very traditionally conservative. His economic policy is pretty good. From my understanding, his foreign policy is pretty good. He's strong on the border issues. He supports closed borders. He's from my understanding, he's been a supporter of Trump. And he had, like I said, very charismatic and one of the probably strongest senators that we have in the United States Senate as of right now. So I'm probably going to put Josh Hawley in the S tier. I'm going to put him above Glenn Youngkin, and the reason for that is because we know he's been in office more or longer, so we kind of know where he stands on a bunch of issues. And I think he's a more viable candidate. Next we have Kari Lake, who I still have hopes for her in the state of Arizona. I still believe that it's very possible the courts will rule in her favor, and I think if that's the case, if she is the governor of Arizona, then I don't think she'll be the vice president. But I think it's very possible that if the courts don't rule in her favor, that Trump may very well pick her. She has a lot of charisma. She would destroy Kamala Harris on the debate stage. She's very good at debating. She's very witty. She's very quick. She's a very quick thinker. And I really like Kari Lake. She's very traditionally conservative. She has strong core values. She's strong with the border. And she aligns a lot with Trump. Now, in terms of bringing stuff to the ticket, she brings the state of Arizona, and that's pretty much about it. So, but everything else, she's a very strong person. And I think if Trump does pick a female candidate, I think someone like Kari Lake is very possible, or is someone that we could we could see be picked. So I'm going to put her in B tier. I think she'd be a strong candidate. I don't know that she'd add a lot to the ticket, but I think there is a lot of potential for her in politics. Next we have Kim Reynolds, the governor of Iowa. She is someone that Trump really likes, and there was speculation for a while that Trump was going to pick her as his vice president. I still say that's possible. She's, pretty strong for the state of Iowa. She's, been pretty conservative, and she's been, she believes in those traditional conservative values, and she's, I know people in the state of Iowa really like her. And so I think it's very possible that we could see a Kim Reynolds ticket or a Trump Reynolds ticket. And I don't think she'd look to be president right after his term. I think that's kind of another I don't think she'd look to succeed Donald Trump right away. But I think, she'd probably be one of the better candidates. Next, we have Kristi Noem, governor of South Dakota, who this is another person that Trump likes, and I know she likes Trump, but she tends to cave into her, donors every once in a while. Yes, she kept her state open, and I know that's the kind of the biggest thing people talk about. Whenever people talk about Kristi Noem, it's that she kept her state open a lot like DeSantis. But she does cave in on other social issues, like the whole trans sports bill. She caved into the establishment, and I just think there's a lot of, that kind of poses an issue, because I think if she continues to do that, it's not going to be a good look for Trump, and, people might think, oh, Trump's part of the establishment, and he's not. He's trying to weed out the establishment. He's trying to, he's trying to show you who the rhinos are. He's trying to, put America First candidates in there. So, I'm going to put her in the F tier. I don't think she'd be all that good. She's very overhyped. She's overrated. The one good thing I'll give her credit for is keeping her state open. Next, we have Lee Zeldin from the state of New York. He's a pretty moderate candidate. He did run the New York race super, super close, closer than it has been in quite a while. I think he ran it within 5 points. He's a strong candidate, and I think if he would have ran for RNC chair, I think he would have likely got it. He would have been a massive upgrade over McDaniel, and he's pretty moderate, but I think he's pretty good on a lot of issues. Not some others, not so much, but I think he wouldn't be a bad candidate. I think he would add more to the ticket than what people give him credit for. Trump wouldn't get the state of New York because it's just a deep blue state, but I think it would, help relations there in the state of New York and elsewhere. So I'm going to put him in the B category. I don't think he'd be bad, but I don't think he adds a lot to the ticket, but, Next we have the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson, who admittedly is another candidate I don't know a lot about. However, I've heard that he is a very conservative person, and he believes in those traditional, strong core values that Christians hold and that conservatives hold, and that's something that's needed in the country. We need those core conservative Christian values in this country. We need them to be held, because our country was founded on the principles of God and the principles of freedom. And from what my understanding, people like him in North Carolina, and like I said, from my understanding, I think he'd be a pretty good candidate. I don't think he's someone that would succeed Trump right away. I think he would kind of wait for further years or further election cycles down the road before he would maybe consider running. But, I think I'm going to put him in A tier. He does help with North Carolina. He does help with that section of the country. I think if Trump did pick him, it wouldn't be a bad pick at all. I'd be, perfectly okay with it. Next, we have Marsha Blackburn, who's a senator. I don't really have an opinion on her. She's, pretty, traditionally conservative. She doesn't really add much to the ticket, because she is from a red state and not a swing state, like a pretty, like a safe red state. I don't know that she'd add much to the ticket, but, I think if Trump picked her, I wouldn't be mad about it. I'd be perfectly fine with it. So I'm just going to put her in C tier because, she doesn't add a whole lot. And, just people think that, if Trump picked, a woman to be his vice president, he would appeal more to suburban women and urban women and stuff. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think women are really focused on that sort of thing. I think they're more focused on the actual character of the candidate nowadays. Next, we have Mike Garcia, who's a representative from the state of California, who won, again, in a deep blue district. Former military, from my understanding. And I don't think he would be a bad candidate. I think there are better candidates out there. This is another guy I don't know much about, where I know he does tend to vote left on some issues, but he's from the state of California, so I can understand why he does. But overall, I don't really see Trump picking him. He doesn't add anything to the ticket. California is not going to go Republican for a while, so I don't. He doesn't really add much to the ticket, so we're going to put him in D tier. Next, we have Mike Pence, who back in 2016 was well liked by Trump. He was strong. He held his Christian values, that kind of stuff. But recently, in the 2020 election and stuff, Trump just, they didn't get along, and Mike Pence kind of, flopped on some issues. And just, for that case alone, I don't think there's not even a chance. I think if Mike Pence wouldn't have bashed Trump and whatnot, and kind of just, kind of stayed quiet and stuff, I think, a vice presidency with Trump would have been, possible. I wouldn't say very possible, but I would say, it would have been a lot more possible than it is now, because he decided to trash Trump. And it just, it didn't work out in his favor, and, that's where we go from there. Next, we have Mike Pompeo. Don't need to say much about him. He's not he's not really pro-Trump, and I don't think he would be a good candidate. I don't, his foreign policy is very iffy. He's not really strong on all that many issues, and I really don't see him being a possible candidate. Next, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a little bit more of a controversial candidate. People on the left will say, "Oh, she's radical." No, she just believes in those strong conservative values, those traditional values, and she's very strong in what she believes in. She's very vocal, and I think for the I guess her being controversial, quotation marks, I think for that reason alone, I don't think Trump will pick her. But I wouldn't be opposed to Trump picking her. I don't think it would be a bad choice. I just don't know that it would add much to the ticket. Next, we have Nikki Haley. That's all I need to say about her. Neocon. I know I'll leave a link to the video I just posted in the right-hand corner. It talks about the fact, I talk about how she's announcing her presidential bid, and kind of I go over polling and stuff, and that Trump's way ahead of her in polls and whatnot. She's a big neocon, establishmentarian. She's been criticized by America First candidates. Her foreign policy, yes, she was Trump's UN ambassador, but she's been criticized for her foreign policies. She's a very big interventionalist, and she's a globalist. And I don't think she's America First, and I don't think she's ever going to be America First. Now, of course, she could surprise each and every one of us and flip, and turn out to be this true America First candidate. But as of right now, she's a globalist. She's establishmentarian. She's establishment. She's just she's not a good candidate. Next, we have Rand Paul from the state of Kentucky. I like Rand Paul, but other than adding to the state, even though Kentucky's a safe red state when it comes to presidential elections, even though that's the only thing you would add to the ticket, I don't know that he'd add really all that much. He's kind of an independent, but he's Republican or a libertarian, as they say. He's not bad. He's pretty good on social issues, but I don't know that he would really add much to the ticket. We're going to put him in C tier. Next, we have Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, I think, would probably be the strongest candidate for Trump, because in terms of their charisma, they're very alike. They're very similar. There's only a couple things, as DeSantis may run for president. I don't see him running for president. But, and there's a few issues he's a little iffy on, but he kept his state open. He's very strong with the border, and his economic policies are very strong. He has those Christian values. I think he would do very well with Trump. And, people are saying that Trump attacked him. No. And I continue holding this stance. Trump did not attack him. At least from, what I've read, Trump just said he would not have won by as much as he did without his endorsement, which I wholeheartedly believe to be true. I think DeSantis was going to win by plus 10 anyways, but I don't think he would have gone to 20 if it wasn't for Trump's endorsement. But the only other thing is Trump would have to change his residency, which isn't a problem, I don't think, for him. So I'm going to put DeSantis into the S tier. I think his foreign policy would probably be pretty strong. I know he's America first, and I know people love him in Florida, and I think he'll do very well. He'll add Florida to the ticket. And he'll add like Virginia to the ticket, I think, too, because I know him and Glenn Youngkin, they like each other. I think DeSantis campaigned for Youngkin. They like each other as politicians. And so I think he would help him with the state of Virginia. I don't know that Virginia would go Republican if DeSantis was the nominee, but I think he would help and probably run the race closer than it has been. Next, we have Senator Ted Cruz from the state of Texas. People don't like Ted Cruz. People call him Lion Ted. I guess I'm one of the few that do like Ted Cruz. I do like him. He's been, especially in recent years, after Trump became president, Ted Cruz went from being I wouldn't say like never Trumper, but he was anti-Trump, to a very pro-Trump senator, very, pro-Trump candidate. All right, yeah, senator and like kind of person. He believes in America first. He doesn't believe in these massive spending bills, from what I understand. He's not really a globalist. He's America first. Some of his ideas are a little kooky. And I know he's been iffy on some things, but, so is every candidate. And he's very, he's socially conservative, which I think is a good thing. Economically conservative, that kind of stuff, I think. But in terms of what he would add to the ticket, I don't know that he would add much. I know Trump likes Ted Cruz, from my understanding, but I don't think much would be added to the ticket. And I think if Ted Cruz runs for re-election, which I'm assuming he will, he'll probably win by more than he did in his previous election cycle, because I know people are coming around and do actually like Ted Cruz. And like I said, I like Ted Cruz as well. I think he's one of our better senators, and I think he's overall a pretty good guy. So I'm going to put Ted Cruz in the B tier. And next we have Tim Scott, a rhino from the state of South Carolina. I don't say Republican in name only. He's been very, he's been pro BLM on a lot of it, on a lot of cases. He's been very weak on issues socially, and overall he's not. I don't know why South Carolina keeps electing this guy. I mean, they keep giving the United States pretty rhino senators and governors. I mean, you have Lindsey Graham, who's flip-flopper Lindsey Graham, who is also a pretty big rhino. So, do I put him in the same tier as Nikki Haley? That's a good question, but I honestly think Mike Garcia is better than Tim Scott, and I think Brian Kemp, I'm going to put him in F tier. Next, we have Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is I don't think it would be a bad choice. I think he's very charismatic, and I think he would add a lot to the ticket, and I think he would help keep Trump in check. I know Tucker's criticized Trump for a lot of, like cabinet choices and, choices in general, and I know Trump tends to amend his choices kind of based off what Tucker says. So Tucker kind of was like, almost like an advisor to Trump, and I've, watching Fox News for the past 8 years or whatever, and kind of seeing that, Tucker's a pretty big supporter of Trump, and I think he, I don't know that he adds much to the ticket, but I think, I don't know that he would really leave Fox News to become vice president, but I think in the future he does have a future in politics if he decides to go down that route. So we're going to put him in B tier. Tulsi Gabbard. This is a person that I am really not sure how to feel about, because when she was in Congress, she was, she's left on a lot of issues. But all of a sudden, in recent times, she's all of a sudden became conservative. So she says she's pro Second Amendment now. She has criticized the Biden administration continuously and constantly, which is a good thing, because the Biden administration is terrible. She's been she's criticized, been a big critic of the Biden administration, and she's been consistent on that. But in terms of her stances, I don't know where she stands. I don't know if she's grifting to the right just to appeal to the right. I don't know if she was grifting when she was in Congress. I think there's still a lot that, can be undecided, or I guess there's still a lot to be decided, excuse me. And I don't know where she stands. Until I can really trust her. I don't know that she'll add anything to the ticket. I don't know that she'd be a good candidate. And another thing is she has yet to denounce the World Economic Forum. And until she does so, I think the day she denounces the WEF, the World Economic Forum, I think will gain a lot of respect for her, and my opinion might change on her a little bit. But for now, we're just going to put her in the D tier. So that's my tier list for today's video, all the way from S to F. So if you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and please do hit that subscribe button if you're not yet subscribed already. It would mean a lot. I am really looking forward to hitting my goal of 300 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more political content coming your guys' way.